And I said this last year several times. The WNBA is not a vertical league.
She kind of like hip check / like pushed Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark fell.
And I want to get your take on this. What you saw last night. Start with the Sheldon foul on Caitlin Clark, the poke to the eye, and then what happens after that. And this should be celebrated for physical basketball because we wouldn't be leading parades that the NBA needs to protect.
You got to get physical. If you go look at the history of basketball, high school, college, WNBA, NBA, if there's an offensive player,
you control the game is called the fouls that are actually happening on the floor.
And I want to get your take on this. What you saw last night. Start with the Sheldon foul on Caitlin Clark, the poke to the eye, and then what happens after that.
Just when you thought the drama around Caitlin Clark had peaked, NBC Sports steps in and throws gas on the fire. After a heated game filled with elbows, hip checks, and a poke to the eye, one of the biggest sports networks is calling it nothing more than a fracas. But fans aren't buying it. Was Sophie Cunningham just being competitive, or did she cross the line? And why is NBC defending it all like it's just another day at the office? Buckle up, this isn't just about one play. It's about how the media, the league, and even Clark's own team are shaping the WNBA's most polarizing storyline.
you got to put a body on her. You got to get physical. If you go look at the history of basketball, high school, college, WNBA, NBA, if there's an offensive player and they're humiliating you, Steph, Shaq, MJ, Caitlin, what do? You can't trap her. She'll dribble through it. You got to put a body on her. You got to double team her. You try to get in her head with trash talking. It's not working at all. It's the ultimate compliment, in my opinion.
It's another wild Wednesday in the world of Caitlin Clark. The crowd's fired up, the cameras are rolling, and the WNBA is suddenly front-page news again. But this time, it's not just about her 33-foot bombs or record-breaking assists. No, it's about the hits she's taking and who's defending them. NBC Sports just went on air and seemingly backed the physical plays against Clark, shrugging off flagrant fouls and eye pokes like they were just part of the game. And right in the middle of it all, Sophie Cunningham fired up, full force, and maybe a little too far. So here's the question. Is this just the price of greatness, or did it cross the line? Let's break it all down.
A Wednesday. It's a Caitlin Clark Wednesday. How grateful are we? How lucky are we in June? You know, this industry is football season and waiting for football, that Caitlin Clark has become a leading source of content. Or we could talk about Aaron Rodgers. I am for Caitlin Clark. J-Mac texted me last night, the gift that keeps on giving.
It all started with a foul, but not just any foul. J.C. Sheldon and Caitlin Clark, two players with history dating back to their college Big Ten days, were already exchanging words as early as the second quarter. And it wasn't just chatter. Lip readers caught some serious F-bombs flying from Caitlin Clark's side, showing just how fired up this matchup had become. Then came the eye poke. Midway through the game, Sheldon reached in and caught Clark right in the face. The result? A flagrant one. But that wasn't the end. Marina Mabrey, a former Notre Dame star and now teammate, jumped in to defend Clark, delivering a hip check that sent her crashing to the floor.
J.C. Sheldon appeared to poke her in the eye later in the game. Marina Mabrey comes in. Marina Mabrey is a former Notre Dame player, so of course I have to defend her because she's one of my favorites.
Marina Mabrey. She does what Marina Mabrey does, yes.
She's going to step in and defend her teammate. So she kind of like hip checked / like pushed Caitlin Clark. Caitlin Clark fell. That was a point in the game where, you know, I think J.C. Sheldon got a flagrant one for the eye poke, but then everyone else was assessed technicals. And there may be some criticism that Marina Mabrey should have gotten ejected there. I think, you know, that's certainly up for debate.
It escalated from there. Multiple players got involved, emotions flared, and technicals were handed out like candy. Some argued Mabrey should have been ejected. And then, with the game nearly out of reach and the Fever up by 17, Sophie Cunningham took things even further. She stopped J.C. Sheldon on a fast break, igniting what NBC labeled a fracas. Benches cleared, chaos unfolded, and what took just seconds on the court kept referees debating for nearly 10 minutes.
And I think it's also worth noting, the Sun are not the best team in the WNBA. They're actually the worst, if not maybe like the second worst. Like the Dallas Wings are also pretty bad, but the Fever are a championship contender team. So at the end of the game, when most of the starters were out, the Fever were up by 17 points, and Sophie Cunningham decided to prevent JC Sheldon from, scoring on a layup, and that's when the fracas began. I would say everything before the fracas was just sort of basketball-y, players, defending their teammates sort of thing, and then the fracas occurred in the fourth quarter, which was, it took, the referees like 10 minutes to decide what to do. They ended up ejecting a bunch of players, including Lindsay Allen, which I don't even know what she looked like she was trying to break it up. It was just very silly. And so
That's exactly what Caitlin Clark just did without saying a word. Her fans, they didn't just cheer. They made a move so loud it echoed through the entire league. Sophie Cunningham's jerseys, gone, sold out. All because of Clark's growing army of diehard supporters. This isn't hype. This is power. Real power. And today we're diving straight into it.
Caitlin Clark makes her return. Caitlin Clark back in action, and 300,000 people showed up. So yes, people said, I'll wait. And when they waited, they came back and then some. When they waited, they came back and then some.
Sophie Cunningham is making waves, and she's doing it with confidence. After the heated incident involving Marina Mabrey and JC Sheldon, Sophie didn't stay silent. She took to social media, firing off subliminal messages and backing her actions with bold retweets. From tweets to petitions to photos going viral, she's become the face of this week's WNBA buzz. What's even crazier, this isn't just about basketball anymore. People are making fan accounts. Digging up her old football photos, turns out she used to be a kicker in high school. Sophie is embracing every second of the spotlight, and it shows. She's not backing down. She's standing on business, and the internet can't get enough.
What a damn day we have had so far with Sophie Cunningham. She is standing on business. She's trending everywhere, and now she's retweeting all the drama. Sophie has simply made herself a star, which she was already famous, but at this point, she hella famous, super famous. She got parody accounts been made on her. Guys, this is lit. But let's head on over to Twitter right now.
NBC Sports didn't hold back. From the moment the segment started, it was clear they weren't condemning the hits on Caitlin Clark. They were calling them the natural result of her greatness. According to them, Clark didn't just enter the league she kicked the door down. She's already number 1 and 2 in nearly every offensive category, shooting deeper threes than Steph Curry did in his first MVP season. Her game, they said, doesn't just win, it embarrasses you. And when that happens, you either double team her or you hit her hard.
She dishes it out, and I think that it's a disservice to her as an athlete to pretend like she can't also take it. Like, I think her being someone who can play really aggressive, hard basketball and competitive basketball and can, smack talk back and forth with other players is something that's part of her game and something that, should be celebrated, as well as her long threes. Like, those are the things that we love in athletes.
NBC framed it like a chapter right out of Michael Jordan's early years. The eye poke, the knockdown, they compared it to what MJ faced from the bad boy Pistons. According to them, it wasn't dirty, it was expected. And Sophie Cunningham? NBC reminded everyone she was brought to Indiana for exactly this, a 6-year-old black belt, the youngest in Missouri history. Not just a player, a protector. The Fever, they said, saw this storm coming. And Sophie? She was their insurance. So when things got chippy, NBC wasn't shocked. In their view, this wasn't over the top. It was old school, just basketball.
They brought Sophie Cunningham over in a trade for a reason. She's the youngest black belt in the state of Missouri's history, 6 years old. They brought her over to protect Caitlin Clark because they saw this puppy coming. The league doesn't quite know what to do, but the Fever did. And so, again, you got to put a body on her. You got to get physical.
Dan chimed in too, pointing out that everything people were calling dirty, from the eye poke to the hip check, happens all the time in the NBA. But when it involves Caitlin Clark, suddenly it's headline news. Jessica defended Marina Mabrey's actions, saying she was just backing up her teammate. And as for Sophie Cunningham, NBC didn't crucify her either. If anything, they suggested Indiana was smart for having her on the roster as a physical enforcer for Clark.
Marina Mabrey, this is inappropriate, came over, knocked her over. Many thought she should have been thrown out of the game. Well, she didn't get a technical. It's a little bad boys Pistons with MJ. For the record, Caitlin Clark got up. She wasn't hurt. She did more trash talking. She hit more threes. She remained remarkable, just like all the great. If you respect women, stop pandering.
Caitlin Clark didn't just arrive in the WNBA, she exploded onto the scene. NBC painted the picture clearly. She's not just a rookie, she's a phenomenon. From draining deep 33-foot shots to averaging more assists than anyone expected, her game is flashy, fast, and impossible to ignore. They compared her rise to none other than Michael Jordan. Just like MJ's first years, Caitlin's presence has flipped the script. The Fever were at the bottom before she arrived. Now, they're packing arenas, breaking TV ratings, and even outdrawing the Pacers on certain nights.
I do think the media is prone to do this. The media tends to be very reactionary, and the fans generally get it more than the media. So I want to start with this, J-Mac. The WNBA has arrived. Caitlin Clark's gotten really good really fast. It's like the end of year 1 for Michael Jordan or year 3 for Michael Jordan. She's gotten really good really fast. And you got to put a body on her, or you got to double team her, or she's going to embarrass you. She's shooting 33-footers. And what happened last night's a byproduct of that. This is what happened to MJ. She's number 1 and 2 in every offensive stat. She's hitting more threes this season than Steph Curry did in his first MVP season. And her game embarrasses you. So like men's basketball, J.C. Sheldon had the task of stopping the latest superstar in her basketball league.
They acknowledge that Clark is aggressive, that she swears, gets in players' faces, and plays with an edge. And when players push back, that's not personal, that's basketball. If it crosses the line, the refs are there to handle it, which in this case, they eventually did. As for the flopping claims, NBC chalked it up to standard tactics. Jessica even said selling a foul is part of the sport, a way to gain a technical, get an edge, and shift momentum. Nothing new there. At the end of the day, NBC made one thing clear. Caitlin Clark doesn't need saving. She needs space to play the game the way she's always played it: physical, loud, and unapologetically tough.
She dishes it out, and I think that it's a disservice to her as an athlete to pretend like she can't also take it. Like, I think her being someone who can play really aggressive, hard basketball and competitive basketball and can, smack talk back and forth with other players is something that's part of her game and something that, should be celebrated, as well as her long threes. Like, those are the things that we love in athletes. And so I think that, this conversation is sort of spun out of control and needing to protect her. I don't think if she's going to swear at other players and get in other players' faces, then they should be able to get back in her face, and the referee should be able to assess penalties if it goes too far, which is what they did. And I agree that there's, I think, a conversation to be had about.
After Caitlin took a flagrant foul and got poked in the eye, Sophie responded, a hard foul, a takedown. It wasn't subtle, and NBC didn't pretend it was, but they didn't condemn it either. They called it what it was: retaliation, a message, a throwback to the way Charles Oakley once protected Michael Jordan. They said it's how teams send warnings across the league. If you come at our star like that, we're coming for yours. NBC pointed to the fans in the crowd, not horrified, not booing, but smiling, cheering, filming. To them, it wasn't a scandal, it was part of the show. The WNBA just had its WWE moment. In Indiana, they were all in.
And this thing was chatty in the second quarter. It was chatty. They've got history. It was trash talking. And then in the third quarter, Sheldon poked her in the eye again. This is something we see all the time. They were on each other. They were talking. It was trashy. The superstar like MJ, unstoppable, poke her in the eye, and that's a flagrant foul, and it should have been a flagrant foul. And then Marina Mabrey, this is inappropriate, came over, knocked her over. Many thought she should have been thrown out of the game. Well, she didn't get a technical. It's a little bad boys Pistons with MJ. For the record, Caitlin Clark got up.
So, was it dirty play or just basketball getting real? NBC Sports says it's nothing more than a fracas competitive fire at its finest. But with Caitlin Clark in the middle of it all, every bump turns into a headline. Was Sophie out of line or just doing her job? You decide.
It was a fracas. When I told you I wanted to talk about this, I said it was a fracas, and I stand by that designation. I don't think this was anything more than a fracas.
Right.
It was certainly not an agree to disagree, but it also was not tomfoolery.
And I want to get your take on this. What you saw last night. Start with the Sheldon foul on Caitlin Clark, the poke to the eye, and then what happens after that.
And I said this last year several times. The WNBA is not a vertical league.
And this should be celebrated for physical basketball because we wouldn't be leading parades that the NBA needs to protect.
NBC Sports says it's part of the game, part of protecting a star who's changing everything. But as the hits keep coming, so do the questions. Is this how we treat greatness or how we try to stop it? Let us know in the comments. Was it defense, drama, or straight up dirty? Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more unfiltered takes and WNBA heat because this story, it's far from over.